On this Jamhuri Day, Kenya marks 54 years after independence. President Uhuru Kenyatta will lead the state celebrations of Jamhuri Day, held for the first time at the Moi Stadium in Kasarani. The official celebrations are being held under the theme of Kenya Mbele, aimed at fostering national unity in the wake of a protracted general election period. It is President Kenyatta's first state function since his re-election for a second term in office. The KTN News crew is at Kasarani and will be bringing you live coverage of the proceedings there. Good morning there. Thank you very much for joining us. This is News Center. Happy Jamhuri Day. Kenya is now 54 years and we appreciate you being with us this morning. For the next 2 hours, we'll be covering for you some of the top stories that our crew on the ground are focusing on. We'll also be crossing over live to Kasarani, where we'll be getting to just understand what's happening there. We'll be able to talk to Kenyans on the ground and what they feel about Kenya being 54 years today. Thank you for joining us. Remember that I always like to interact with you. Hashtag to use, of course, is News Center or at Betty M. Kello. That's my Twitter handle. We'll also be having a discussion here in studio, just really focusing on Kenya. As we, of course, move away from the electioneering period, just how will we be able to do that, moving Kenya forward? That's a conversation that we'll be having here in studio, among other top stories that we'll be covering for you. And, of course, we also have some devastating and unfortunate news coming to us on this 12th day of December, and we understand that over 19 people have died after several vehicles were involved in a multiple accident at Kamukuya Bridge along the Kitale-Webuye Highway last night. Several injured people are receiving treatment at the Kimilili and Webuye sub-county hospitals. Bungoma North OCPD Eliud Okello said a matatu rammed into a tractor belonging to the West Kenya Sugar Company, which was transporting sugarcane. The tractor had overturned at the bridge. Several other vehicles, including lorries and private vehicles, were involved in the 9 p.m. multiple accident. The matatu, owned by Sabatia Circle, was ferrying passengers from Kitale to Webuye town. All right, and a man is being held after an attempted terror attack at New York City's main bus terminal. The suspect has been identified as a 27-year-old Akayed Ullah, a Bangladeshi immigrant. Officials say he was among those injured by a low-tech explosive device strapped to his body. 3 other people suffered minor wounds when it blew up in an underpass. All right, so let's get our coverage started. And of course, we start with today marking 54 years since Kenya attained independence. And this Jamhuri Day is being marked in the wake of a difficult election period after an unprecedented annulled presidential election that led to a fresh presidential election with a second term win for President Uhuru Kenyatta. The theme of this year's Jamhuri Day is Kenya Mbele, for a people who are arguably the most divided by their politics since independence in 1963. And like I mentioned, we'll be having our crew on the ground. They will be talking to me in a few minutes just to give us really an overview of what's happening there. They will be able to speak to Kenyans and get to understand their feeling about the day that is today.
Karibu sana Mheshimiwa Rais, utuongoze kwenye Karibu Mheshimiwa Rais, utuongoze kwa sherehe.
All right, so the celebrations have not yet started, but once they do, we'll be crossing over there live. Now, Kenyans today mark 54 years of independence amid an uncertain political future, but a group of unsung heroes of independence have a totally different cry. Now, they lament that the country has focused too much on political personalities such as Jomo Kenyatta, Oginga Odinga, and others. And Robert Wanyonyi has this special report from Western Kenya, which is going to highlight how they feel about this.
As we visit their homes in Bungoma County, the KTN News team came face to face with the grim reality of the once powerful Mau Mau soldiers. We meet Boniface Wenani, who is aging and sickly. He laments how the government has neglected their plight.
Mimi nilikuwa daktari. Alikuwa hata Bongo Afrika alikuwa hakuna daktari. Mimi ndiye daktari wa kwanza kupigana na vita hiyo. Na alikuwa kama wagonjwa alikuwa wewe umekuwa wagonjwa ninaleta mpaka nyumbani.
Buka huyu mzee kweli amekonjeka sana, madawa kuna. Wanasema wanataka kula vyakula lakini sina pesa.
Holding on to their memories during the struggle for independence, they appeal to the government to intervene to alleviate poverty in their family.
Mheshimiwa Wangamati amuone huruma, amkumbuke kwa vile alipigania vita vya pili. Hata rais wetu Uhuru akumbuke huyu mzee kweli.
Not far from Wenani's home within Kabuchai constituency, we meet Mzee Charles Makosia, who fought in India and Burma, also living in a sorry state.
Mimi niko na taabu tangu nilikenda kwa vita, wakati nimerudi. Mnataka mimi nifwe ndio mnisaidie au namna gani?
Makosia narrates that he solely depends on his sons who are boda riders for the family's daily survival.
Hakuna mtoto yangu hata moja iko kwa kazi ya serikali, hata kazi yoyote hakuna. Uzee yangu inakwisha, serikali ikumbuke ile kitu inanifanyia mimi, inifanyie.
His son Peter Makosia points out that the family was heavily disadvantaged, adding that when their father was in the battlefield, the Angos took advantage of his long absence and subdivided his ancestral land, throwing the family to their current state of life as quarters.
Tunaomba tu atusaidie kwa maana vile msali alitoka huko, alipata ndugu zake wamekaona shamba imeisha. Sasa sasa tumekaa tu kama squatter.
In another village, 95-year-old Mzee John Chemiati echoed the same sentiments, urging the government to intervene in their plight.
Tulipigania Kenya. Vita ilikwisha mwaka wa 43 hapa Kenya kushinda Wataliani. Na huko ng'ambo tukashinda mwaka wa 46 kabla tukashinda Wajerumani huko na Japani. Nchi ikawa shwari.
This is Kenyatta Street within Bungoma town. And while the Kenyan government has recognized some former freedom fighters and even political leaders by naming roads and streets after them, freedom fighters from Western Kenya are still living in a life of poverty almost 54 years since independence. They just feel there was a level playing ground. Robert Wanyonyi, KTN News.
Very interesting story there by Robert Wanyonyi. Now, we want to take a short commercial break, but let's just bring you up to speed with our top stories. This morning, we're focusing on quite a number of them. And today, of course, as you know, the reason why you're watching me from home this morning is that Kenya is marking Jamhuri Day amid an uncertain political future. And President Uhuru Kenyatta will be leading the celebrations at the Moi Sports Stadium in Kasarani. The official celebrations are being held under the theme of Kenya Mbele, seeking to foster national unity. All right, so that is one of the top stories we'll be focusing on. But also, we will be trying to get the latest from the ground. We understand that over 19 people have died after several vehicles were involved in a multiple accident at Kamukuya Bridge along the Kitale-Webuye highway last night. Several injured people are currently receiving treatment at Kimilili and Webuye sub-county hospitals. Bungoma North CPD Eliud Okello said a matatu rammed into a tractor belonging to West Kenya Sugar Company, which was transporting sugarcane. The tractor had overturned at the bridge. Several other vehicles, including lorries and private vehicles, were involved in the 9 p.m. multiple accident. The matatu owned by Sabatia Sacco was ferrying passengers from Kitale to Webuye town. Quite an unfortunate turn of events there. 19 people losing their lives. We'll be getting the latest from the ground for you. All right, so we wanted to take a short break here on News Center, but we're coming back in a few minutes. Don't go away.